You wake up, step in front of the mirror, and there it is again, that quiet war between what you see and what you wish you saw. Maybe it's the stomach that isn't flat enough, the hips that are too wide, the arms that don't look like the ones on the fitness influencer's reel. The absurd part, you've probably done everything right. You've counted calories, tracked macros, lifted weights, drank water, watched your posture, maybe even whispered affirmations in front of that same mirror. But still, that dissatisfaction lingers. It's like a fog you can't shake. And here's the truth we're rarely told. This obsession with the perfect body has nothing to do with health and everything to do with control. And if there's any ancient philosophy that knew how to dismantle the illusion of control, it was Stoicism. Because the Stoics weren't just philosophers, they were warriors of the mind. And they knew something we desperately need to remember: your body is not your worth. In fact, the more you obsess over it, the further you drift from peace. Let's start with the Stoic foundation. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." That's it. That's the dividing line between suffering and serenity. What is up to us? Our thoughts, our choices, our actions. What is not up to us? Our genetics, our bone structure, the way the world perceives our appearance, and the shape of our body in comparison to someone else's. We spent our lives trying to control what was never ours to control. And the result? Anxiety, shame, disordered thinking masked as discipline, a constant treadmill of not enough. But what if the problem isn't your body? What if the problem is your relationship to your body? We don't see with our eyes, we see with our minds. And our minds have been trained, conditioned, and manipulated to see the body not as a vessel of life, but as a product to be perfected, a project to be fixed, a brand to be promoted. And the Stoics would look at that and say, "You've been enslaved by externals."
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Now here's where it gets deep. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled over the most powerful empire of his time, wrote in his private journal, "The body is a river, the soul is a mist, and fame is a dream." This was a man who had access to everything: wealth, power, admiration, and yet he understood that none of it brought inner peace. The body was not a trophy, it was a temporary shell, a tool for virtue, not vanity. And that's the Stoic twist we need to confront. The body is not meant to be worshipped, but it's meant to be used well. Do you move with integrity? Do you treat your body with respect, not obsession? Do you use your strength to serve others, to discipline your mind, to experience the world with humility? Or are you caught in the endless loop of self-surveillance? Let me ask you something that might change your entire outlook. If your body never changed again, could you still live a life of meaning, love, and impact? Because if the answer is no, then your body has become your prison. And that's not freedom. That's not health. That's not beauty. That's fear wearing a six-pack. The Stoics remind us that real freedom comes from internal mastery, not external perfection. You can have the perfect body and still be miserable. You can have the most admired physique in the room and still hate yourself. Why? Because the root isn't physical, it's philosophical. It's the belief that you are what you look like, and that your value is skin deep. But the Stoics saw through that illusion. They trained themselves to detach from what could be taken from them: status, youth, symmetry, and instead rooted their peace in something immovable, character. Now, this doesn't mean you should neglect your body. Stoicism is not apathy. It's not an excuse for laziness or indulgence. It's about right relationship. The Stoics trained hard. They walked miles, fought wars, endured cold, fasted, challenged their limits. But they did it for discipline, not dopamine. For virtue, not validation. Your body is a sacred instrument, but it's not your identity. It's a vehicle for expressing courage, resilience, humility, love, not a billboard for your worth. And when you finally internalize that, something astonishing happens. You stop needing to be admired. You stop needing to chase some ideal. You start moving, eating, training, and resting not to become something but because you already are something. You are a rational being, capable of wisdom. That's the Stoic standard. But let's go further. Why do we obsess over perfection in the first place? Because we confuse perfection with safety. We think, if I just look a certain way, I won't be rejected. I'll be loved. I'll be safe. But Stoicism rips this illusion to shreds. No amount of muscle or symmetry can shield you from pain, aging, illness, or death. You are going to lose your looks. You are going to decay. And that's not negative, it's liberating. Because the moment you accept your body is temporary, you stop trying to make it immortal. You stop tying your self-worth to something that's constantly changing. You start living now. You start using your body not as a sculpture to display, but as a vessel to serve, to explore, to experience joy, to build resilience, to love freely without needing to be flawless. What if you could walk into a gym not to punish yourself, but to honor your body? What if you could eat a meal not in fear of calories, but in gratitude for nourishment? What if you could look in the mirror and see not a problem to fix, but a companion to care for? That's the Stoic way. It's radical because it's real. It doesn't promise you abs or beauty. It promises you something far more rare, peace. But here's the kicker, and the part that gets ignored in most modern conversations about body image. The obsession isn't just personal, it's cultural. We live in a society that profits off your insecurity. Every flaw you feel has been sold to you. Every standard you chase has been manufactured. You are not failing to measure up. You are being manipulated to believe you're always behind. And the Stoics would say, that's the ultimate slavery. When you base your happiness on something external, your appearance, you've given your freedom away to the crowd, to the algorithm, to the advertisers. But when you reclaim your body as a tool of virtue, you become untouchable. They can't sell you shame anymore. They can't control you with comparison. You become free not because your body changed, but because your mind did. So let me ask you something that goes deeper than the mirror. If your body was invisible, would your soul still shine? That's the question the Stoics would want you to wrestle with. That's the question that cuts through all the noise. Because at the end of the day, we will all return to dust. The curves, the abs, the symmetry, it will all fade. But your character, your courage, your wisdom, that's what echoes. That's what matters. That's what Stoicism teaches us to invest in. And the irony is, the moment you stop obsessing over how you look, you begin to carry yourself with a presence that's more magnetic than any physique, or a calm, a confidence, a clarity. That's not built in the gym, it's built in the soul. We all know that moment. You walk by a mirror, maybe you weren't even looking for it, and suddenly everything changes. You were fine before. You were living, breathing, thinking about something meaningful. But then, in an instant, your mind is hijacked. With that tiny glimpse of your reflection becomes a brutal judge, a prosecutor whispering, "Not enough. Still not enough." And what's wild is that nothing in your life has actually changed. You didn't lose your intelligence. You didn't lose your kindness. You didn't lose your dreams. You just saw your body through the lens of a world that's trained you to believe it's your currency. And that's the trap. That's the illusion the mirror creates. It doesn't show you your body. It shows you your story about your body. The one you've been told since you were young. The one that says your worth is conditional. That if you just fix this one thing, your stomach, your jawline, your thighs, then you'll be enough. Then you'll be free. But the truth, if we're brave enough to face it, is this: there is no then. There's only now. And if you're not free now, you never will be. Because freedom doesn't come from changing your reflection. It comes from changing your relationship to the reflection. That's what the Stoics knew. That's what they trained for. Not abs, not aesthetics, autonomy. You see, the Stoic doesn't look in the mirror to admire or to judge. The Stoic looks in the mirror and says, "This is the vessel. This is the tool. What matters is what I do with it." Marcus Aurelius, in the middle of war, disease, and empire, wrote to himself, "Not to the world, you are a soul carrying a corpse." That wasn't morbid. That was freedom. It was a reminder that the body, while necessary, is not the self. And when we remember that, something incredible happens. We stop being owned by our bodies. We start owning them. We stop being puppets of the mirror and start being masters of our choices. And this is where it gets practical. Because when you stop obsessing over the perfect body, you don't stop caring for it, you start caring for it rightly. You stop abusing it in the name of beauty. You stop starving it in the name of control. You stop hiding it in shame. You start feeding it with respect, training it with discipline, resting it with compassion. The Stoic doesn't worship the body, but they honor it. They strengthen it because it allows them to serve, and to endure, to live with clarity. And that shift from obsession to stewardship is the key to everything. Let me ask you something radical. What would it feel like to use your body instead of constantly trying to fix it? That question strips away all the nonsense. Because the truth is, most of us aren't even living in our bodies. We're managing them, critiquing them, editing them like a never-ending project. But we're not inhabiting them. We're not feeling the ground through our feet, the air in our lungs, the power in our legs as we run, lift, walk, dance. We're seeing our bodies as objects, not as instruments of experience. But the body isn't here to be stared at. It's here to carry you through life. It's a bridge, not a billboard. And once you start using it that way, everything changes. You stop looking at fitness as punishment or performance. You start seeing it as presence. A daily practice of aligning your physical actions with your philosophical values. You train not to impress, but to embody virtue. You eat not to shrink, but to sustain. You rest not because you're lazy, but because you're wise. That's the Stoic mindset. It's not about how the body looks. It's about how the body serves. And this isn't just poetic, it's strategic. Because once your worth is no longer tangled in your appearance, you become unshakable. You walk into a room and you're not scanning for who's judging you. You're scanning for who needs help. You're not comparing your body, you're using your body to speak truth, to hold space, to stand tall. And ironically, that kind of confidence, that kind of groundedness, it's more attractive than any six-pack. Because it's rare, it's real. It's not a performance, it's presence. And people feel that. You feel that. You stop being the insecure version of yourself, always calculating how you're being perceived. You become the real version, the one who stopped being impressed by mirrors and started being moved by moments. The one who knows that a good life isn't lived in front of a camera, it's lived in the invisible spaces, showing up for a friend, pushing through a challenge, staying kind when it's hard, choosing truth over image. But don't get this twisted. This isn't a call to complacency. Stoicism is not about giving up. It's about showing up. It's about choosing the right fight. And the right fight is not about sculpting a perfect body. It's about sculpting a resilient soul. It's about loving your body enough to stop torturing it for likes. It's about being strong enough to say, I will not betray myself for approval. That's what the Stoics did. They trained their minds to be free so their bodies could follow. They didn't deny their physical form. They transcended its tyranny, and that's what we're called to do now. Because the mirror will always lie. It will always show you a fragment, never the fullness. It will always reflect conditioning, not essence. But when you turn away from the mirror and toward meaning, you begin to live in a way that no reflection can measure. So let me challenge you, right now, what would your daily life look like if you stopped trying to be admired and started trying to be useful? Not in a self-sacrificing way, but in a grounded, embodied, Stoic way, where every step you take is aligned with your values, where your body is not a billboard, but a bridge to your purpose, where you train it, not for perfection, but for presence, where you eat and move and live, not for applause, but for alignment. That's how you stop obsessing, not by denying the body, but by redeeming it, by remembering it's not who you are, it's what you have. And what you have is enough, not because it's flawless, but because it's yours. And when you treat it with reverence instead of resentment, the obsession dies, and the performance ends. The mirror loses its power, and in that stillness, something real begins.